I just couldn't believe she would do this, to steal and throw away our retirement together.
Imagine this. You're 1 year away from retiring, looking forward to some rest after 40 years in a career you've hated. You're at the gas pump, and your card gets declined. When you get home, you find out the card that you rarely use has been maxed out with purchases you never made. You begin to panic, thinking you're the victim of identity theft. But as the days go by and you investigate, you learn from your bank that all the charges, all of these purchases, were authorized and were made from your own home. Your savings account has been emptied and many investments have been liquidated. You question your spouse, who denies any knowledge. Suspicious, you decide to place a trap, and you end up catching your spouse in the act of trying to clean you out of even more money. That's what happened to this man, Charles, and today I'm going to tell you what happened and what he's doing now. Charles met his wife Sandy at the beginning of his career as a software sales representative, and they were married soon after. 10 years into his work, Charles began to realize that he had made the wrong career choice. He didn't like the work anymore. The constant pressure of meeting sales targets was wearing him down, but with 2 kids and a mortgage, he decided to keep at it. The marriage was a happy one, and the couple was comfortable. They lived within their means, and when the children began school, Sandy returned to the workforce. Having 2 incomes enabled the couple to still save for retirement without having to make any drastic sacrifices. As years went by, the retirement plans began to solidify. What was once some vague idea about a day that seemed so far off began to materialize into concrete plans. They decided to sell their house and move into a retirement community where they could while away their days engrossed in their hobbies. Charles with his golf and Sandy with her crafts. They also shared a love of road trips and were excited to be planning what RV they might purchase and what adventures they would have in it. So it was a shock for Charles to find his wife stealing from this shared dream of theirs. There were no warning signs that she was unhappy with their life together. In fact, it seemed just the opposite. Sandy had maxed out several credit cards, drained their savings account, and liquidated some of their investments. Not everything was lost. They still had the house, and there were assets she was unable to access on her own. But Charles found himself staring at a rather bleak retirement future to the one he had envisioned. Worse was the choices he faced in the near term. Does he report his wife to the police? How can he continue living with her? He sought advice from a friend who was a retired police officer. As he recounted this story to him over coffee, he struggled to make any sense of it. Not only was it so out of character for her to do something like this, but it was also what she was spending the money on. She was giving most of it away. There were political donations she had made when she had never been interested in politics before. And there were donations to charities in other countries that he had never heard of and that had no relation to their lives. It was as though she was giving money away to anyone who would ask. And what money wasn't given away, he was now beginning to find stashed throughout the house. He would find $100 bills in books or between the pages of magazines, under plates and in cereal boxes. Just really random amounts and random hiding spots. It was then that his friend suggested that she get tested for dementia. The suggestion struck Charles as absurd at first. Sandy had not had any problems with her memory or the functioning day-to-day. Why would he suggest something like dementia? You see, dear viewers, early onset dementia is a cutting adversary. It doesn't always announce itself with the telltale signs that we've come to expect. There is no sudden, dramatic forgetfulness, no getting lost on the way home from the grocery store. Instead, it can creep in silently, manifesting in ways that are easy to dismiss or to rationalize. In Sandy's case, her financial misconduct, the very behavior that had brought them to this point, was potentially the first sign of a mind in decline. It's a cruel irony that the part of her brain responsible for judgment and impulse control might have been affected before her memory. The stashing away of money is a common trait in dementia patients. and was what tipped off the suspicions of his police officer friend. Charles began reassessing every small oddity, every out-of-character moment he had ever noticed in Sandy over the past months, perhaps even years. The occasional mood swing, the uncharacteristic decision, the moments of confusion quickly covered up with a laugh or a joke. But here's the thing about early onset dementia that makes it so insidious. It doesn't always play by the rules. It can strike at a much younger age than most people expect, sometimes even one's 40s or 50s. Sandy, at 58, was young enough that dementia hadn't even crossed Charles's mind as a possibility. And that is why cases like Sandy's often go undiagnosed for years. We expect dementia to announce itself with great fanfare, with unmistakable signs. But sometimes it whispers instead of shouts. It hides behind the mask of everyday stress or midlife crisis, making it all too easy to overlook. Charles did not report his wife to the police. He recognized that the love of his life was ill and not responsible for her actions. He abandoned his retirement plans, sold the house, and used what proceeds he had to move Sandy into a nursing home with a memory care unit. The financial burden of this has been heavy. He's had to hang in at his job longer than he had ever expected. He was able to find a basement apartment for himself to live in when he noticed a posting at his church. Some parishioners are going to help install a handrail, so he has an easier time walking down the rear stairs to his apartment. Living as cheaply as possible, having taken such a downward step in life, one might expect Charles to be resentful of his situation, perhaps even depressed. But as Charles sees it, it's the beginning of a new chapter in his life, with new challenges and new opportunities.
You know, I would never have expected it. I'm probably at the low point of my life financially, but I haven't been this happy in a long time. It's been difficult watching Sandy decline, but through this, I've met a lot of new friends that are going through the same thing, and we're all starting a business together as we put our lives back together. It's an exciting time.
I hope you found this story interesting. This is a sensitive subject matter, and I know not everybody will want to watch this sort of content. During the course of my interviews, I've met a number of people that have been somehow touched by dementia, and their stories are fascinating. Depending on the reaction I get to this video, perhaps I'll post some of them. While editing this video, I couldn't stop wondering what would happen to Charles and Sandy if they didn't have the financial cushion they did. Where would Sandy go if they had no money and just their Social Security? Does the state step in and offer help? I think this is something I need to learn about.